Hello YouTube, it's Michael, Sailors with Cars. Today we've got a special guest. Shawn is with us. Shawn is not a sailor, but that's okay because Shawn has brought us this awesome, and I'm going to call it, race car. Shawn, thanks for coming on the channel.
No problem.
What have you brought us?
So this is my 66 El Camino, pro street style car that I race occasionally, but it is definitely a street car. I have a lot of pride in this. This was a friend of mine's car that passed away.
Tell us a little bit about that. When did you come across the car? When did you first learn about this vehicle?
So my friend Jeff Boyd that owned Jeffco Transmissions, this was his house car, and he passed away in '09, and I always wanted the car back, and he gave it to a friend of his who passed away a couple years later, and I ended up buying it from Jeff's best friend Dominic's wife. It had been parked for almost 3 years and not ran, and so I got it back, and keeping the legacy of Jeffco alive. And yeah, it's been used to run at Carlsbad. Used to run at the antique drags at Carlsbad. Yeah, and I have a lot of fun with it.
So let's get what size engine? We're gonna look at the engine in a minute, but what size engine's in it?
This is a 600 cubic inch Marlin block, low deck, so it fits in under the hood and didn't have to get crazy with the headers and stuff like that.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a 600 cubic inch, 900 horsepower.
900 horsepower. That's a monster.
And I still drive it on the street.
I know you do. And it's got awesome sound. So, original color?
Yes, this paint was put on this car around 1992-93. It's back when paint was good. It's been clay barred a few times, but you know, I call it a driver. You know, you don't want it too fancy to where you're afraid to drive it, and
no.
I drive it like I stole it, so it's fun.
Yeah, and it's beautiful. So, talk about these monster tires in the back here.
So these are 1350s wide, 31 inches tall, drag slicks. I'm going to get some DOT slicks for it next time because I think they'll last a little longer on the street. But it's tubbed, and this is the way it was originally built. It has a Ford 9-inch rear end with a 389 gear. I can't afford to buzz this thing real hard as far as RPM wise go, so I shifted it to about 6,000 when I'm really getting after it. Engine builder didn't want me to go over 6,800.
So let's stop you there for a minute. So I know one time you told me the story of the engine on it. So not quickly, but so this engine rebuilt by.
So this engine is brand new, done by Box Performance in Ohio. When I owned Jeffco Transmissions, he built 3 motors for a customer of mine, and he's known for big cubic inch, big blocks, and he's been doing it since the early 90s.
So which block is this built off of?
It is based off a 454, but it is a custom aftermarket block in order to get the 600 cubic inch and get a 4.5-inch stroke crank in it.
So the original 396 was long taken out of it.
Long taken out of it. Jeff had a 396 in it with a 454 crank, which makes it a 427, I believe.
But it wasn't an SS.
No, and it's not even a true 396 car. Jeff had the badges on it because it was a 396 block.
God, I wondered about that.
Yeah.
I thought the 396, that was the SS model, but
no.
Don't know. Got it. Okay, and fuel tank is here in the.
Yeah, and this is the original tank that Jeff had in it, something I'm going to change out just because I'm having some pickup issues street driving it. You know, there's just a hose laying in the bottom of the tank.
Oh, got it.
So sometimes, you know, you can't let it get below 5 gallons, otherwise you're not climbing hills or you lose fuel pressure just because the tank's so big in the splash.
And what kind of gas do you have to burn in this thing?
I run at least 108 octane leaded race fuel. Because the motor is 12-to-1 compression, I can't run anything.
Where do you get that?
Oh, you have to buy it at a specialty place, and you're not supposed to be driving it on California streets. But
So what do you like, buy 5-gallon cans of it? Or?
yeah, buy 5-gallon cans of it. They sell it out of the pump too, but you can't drive the car up and pump it into the car and then drive away.
I can't believe that's cheap by any means.
No, it's roughly $9 a gallon.
Woo! It's like buying gas in England.
Yeah.
Sweet. All right, so I'm going to stop the camera for a second because I want to make sure we get a really good view of the engine and the interior. So we'll be right. All right, so we're looking at the engine, and that's the whole frame right there. That's a hell. Talk about that engine. Holy God. Look at that thing.
Gary Box at Box Performance built this for me, and it's a Marlin block, 600 cubic inch, like I said.
So what does that mean, Marlin block? Sorry.
So it's an aftermarket block.
Got it.
And you have to get an aftermarket block because you can't reach the 600 cubic inch with your standard 454.
Oh yeah, it's got his stuff on the covers.
Yes.
Nice.
And then it has profiler heads. They're CNC ported. They're also came polished. I had to pay extra for that.
Yeah.
But T&D rockers, Eagle crank, diamond pistons. It's got a 1250 Dominator carburetor on it. And yeah, 900 horsepower. And up at the track, it runs, the best time so far has been 625 in the 8th at 112 miles an hour.
Yeah, I was about to say, so the video that she sent, you were doing 105.
Yeah.
So you got more out of it, of course.
And that's substantial because it has a 389 gear in it, and the car weighs 3,800 pounds with me in it.
Yeah, this is no
It's
fiberglass frickin' go-kart. This is the true blue Chevy heavy car. This is no joke, this thing.
The only thing that's fiberglass is
It's the scoop.
the scoop. I mean,
Yeah.
the hood's still steel.
Yeah, that's a monster. All right, let's take a look on the inside and talk about your gearing. All right, so of course, as you can see, Shawn is in the car, and he's going to go through the interior and how the shifter actually works. So, Shawn?
So this is equipped with a Jeffco transmission, planetary transmission. The way this works is like a regular 4-speed because you have a clutch pedal. The only difference is once you leave off the clutch, you never push the clutch again. You just leave it at full throttle and grab a lever for each gear. And then when you want to downshift, you don't even need to push the clutch in either, and you can downshift it. And once the car starts to lug, then you push the clutch in and you're ready to go at the next signal light. And then this lever is backwards for reverse, center is neutral, and forward is all the way forward. And the lockout pin just keeps it into forward gear.
So, to go forward, that toggle needs to be pulled up, and that needs to be forward.
Yep, there.
So that is first gear?
This is first gear when all the levers are
Or
forward.
up. So like I say, it doesn't matter which one you have up. So as a normal the normal shifting sequence, if you were in that position right there, of course you would pull the tallest one and work your way toward you.
Correct.
But you don't have to.
No, I've had customers where they've shifted backwards for years and never heard anything. What's great about this transmission is it's stupid, and meaning that all the ratios are the same, and all it knows is you locked up a planetary and it's time to go to the next gear. I've had customers, well, how did I run the same time on the track? Well, you ran the same time on the track because the gear ratios are the same, and as long as you pull the lever every time your shift light comes on, the car doesn't know the difference and you run the same time.
So talk about that, the shift light. So what is that?
So I have a shift light that tells me when to shift, and depending on what I'm trying to run in my bracket race, I can slow or speed up the car by how high I'm revving it when I shift.
Okay.
So currently I have it set at 5,500 RPM, and that's what I'm shifting at. As soon as the light comes on, you bang a gear.
Okay.
And it's fully adjustable. The other thing behind the seat, you can't get a picture of it, but I have a 2-step rev limiter. And the reason that is important is because with a stick car, you want to launch RPM, and then you want to have a max RPM rev limiter chip to protect the engine if something goes wrong. So I have this set up to where I'm leaving at 5,000 RPM. When I let go of this button, so when this button is engaged, I'm on the lower rev limiter chip, which is at 5,000. When I launch the car and let go of this button, it switches to the other rev limiter chip, which is 6,500 RPM.
So when you're getting ready to race, you're holding that button down.
Yes, and what this does is activates the 2-step rev limiter. This also, I forgot I don't have it hooked up, but you'll see this light here light up. This is the line lock for the front brakes. Any manual transmission has to be loaded when you launch it. So you'll set the first bulb on your Christmas tree for drag racing. You'll put your foot on the brake and hold this button down. It puts you on the 2-step rev limiter, the lower RPM range, and it also keeps your front brakes only applied. And you use the clutch to drive the car in till the second bulb is lit. Then you can push the clutch in, and the transmission and drivetrain is loaded against the brake of the car.
Okay.
That way you have no slop in your drivetrain to brake anything. Once the light turns green, you're at full throttle against the 5,000 rev limiter chip. Once the light turns green, you sidestep the clutch and let go of the button.
And away you go.
And away you go. The shift light comes on, bang a gear, it comes on again, bang another.
So that is the manual way of what the new cars have for quote launch control system that they've just it's all electronic gear. You're doing it basically manual and electronically, but more manually than anything.
Exactly. In an automatic car, they call it a trans brake. This button would work the trans brake where actually the transmission is in reverse and forward at the same time.
Oh, really?
When you let go of the line lock, the trans brake button, then that puts you in low gear and it launches a converted car.
Wow, interesting. I think a lot of knowledge here. So this Jeffco transmission. So when you owned that company, was this? So it wasn't like a normal. I'm bringing my 1973 AMC Pacer and rebuild my transmission kind of shop.
No, we only exclusively did this, and we manufactured everything. We machined these levers, we machined these knobs.
So you were making transmissions for race people.
Yes, and what's great about this is a streetable transmission that you can downshift. You do not have to pull over and start over. That's the difference between a Jeffco and a Linco. Most people see levers and go Linco because they haven't heard of the Jeffco. But this has been around since 1994. It's proven. I've had customers with 3,200 horsepower that cannot hurt this transmission.
So is it something that he, I won't say invented, but...
Jeff used to work for Linco.
And Linco is another transmission company for this style of transmission?
Correct. It's a Planet. They are the ones that started the planetary transmission craze. And they used to run these in Bob Glidden's car and Pro Stock back in the early days, and then they ended up outlawing them and made them to where everybody has to run the Liberty transmissions. It all has to do with money and politics is what it boils down to.
Okay.
But yes, Jeff used to work for him. He had ideas to improve them, and the story that I heard is the owner eventually told Jeff if he can build a better transmission to go do it, and that's what he did. He started from scratch. He ran it himself for 20 years, and then I ran it myself for another 10. And gear vendors, the overdrive people, actually own it now.
So who owns the patents to all this?
There are no patents.
So you could build this transmission if you wanted to, and they can't say a damn thing.
Well, I signed a non-compete disclosure.
That you wouldn't.
Right. So I got 8 more years left on that.
Got it.
But it's fun. If you have a set of snap ring pliers, screwdriver,
and an Allen wrench, you can rebuild this whole transmission yourself. That's what's great about it.
Really?
If you heard it at the track and you have the spare parts, you can pull this out, fix it within an hour, and you're back racing again.
Awesome.
That's what's so great about this.
Awesome. Well, you know what? I'm looking forward to going for a ride.
All right.
So some of the things I wanted to show you guys is this is the solenoid for the line lock. And the line lock activates the front brakes so you can launch the car while it's loaded. And then this is the reservoir for the hydraulic clutch, because I converted it to a hydraulic throwout bearing so I didn't have to deal with the linkage. And as we were driving it, you know, you heard that rattling noise every time I pushed the clutch in. This has a what they call a Borg and Beck long clutch in it, this dual disc, center iron, fully adjustable, so you can put base pressure into it and you can put counterweights on it, and it's actually designed to slip. That way you get maximum traction without hurting a lot of stuff, because there is no give, because it is a clutch car. So that's what that noise is when you push in the clutch. And a lot of people don't know what that is anymore, because nobody runs a 4-speed in a race car anymore. Everybody's running automatics, torque converter stuff. It's very rare where you see a stick car at a track anymore.
Huh, interesting.
And one of the reasons is they say they're not consistent. Well, if you can cut a light with a clutch and you can pull a lever every time you see a shift light, the car will be consistent.
Yeah, true. Good point.
The other thing is this is a 4-core radiator with dual electric fans, and that's how I ended up being able to cool this thing in hot temperatures. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
How about that carburetor?
Oh, and that's the other thing I wanted to mention. Some of you people may not have seen a carburetor this big, but this is a 1250, what they call the Dominator, and they go up, I think, to 14 or 1650 CFM now is what the number is. So, you know, 90s, I think the biggest you could get was a 950. This is a 1250, and I think they make up to a 1650. And the mounting points are wider, so they call it a 4500 when you start getting that big into your 11, 12, 13, 14 carburetors. So I just took the air filter off so you could see how big it is.
Oh, appreciate it. It's great to look at that. Of course, you're very knowledgeable on everything with the car, so that's great.
And then the headers, I got competition hooker headers for it, and we had to cut some of the wheel wells out to get them to fit. But yeah, it's kind of tight quarters, but nothing like your new cars today. I mean, you can still get to the spark plugs.
Yeah, exactly. Unlike my Porsche, where you can't. We were just talking about that today. The guy's like, oh yeah, just drop into the bottom and get at him. I go, oh really? I don't think so, because I've been underneath that car. I can't even find a damn engine. What are you talking about? It's sad. All right, we're going to do a little bit of a wrap up here, so we're going to be right back with you.